In a documentary covering Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Steven Spielberg says, Indiana Jones cannot exist without his musical theme. And of course, that theme would be nothing without Indiana Jones. Today, we'll be talking about the partnership of Steven Spielberg and John Williams. First, how they met, then about the classical Hollywood score, then about how Williams brought the score back, and lastly about the other duos they inspired due to their commercial success. Steven Spielberg was recommended to meet with John Williams while he was searching for a composer for one of his first films, Sugarland Express. Both men were up-and-coming in their industry and slowly building prestige in their respective areas. They met for lunch and the rest is history. They found a rhythm and created synergy. Spielberg said, "I tell a story and then John retells the story musically." Both are experts at storytelling, leading to the very first blockbuster in the form of Jaws in 1975. However, to fully understand the power of the music in Jaws, an understanding of the classical Hollywood score is required. In its early stages, Hollywood had a distinctly classical music model, now known as the classical Hollywood score. The traits of the score are the extensive use of music, full range of orchestra, reliance on melody domination, establishment of the principal themes during opening titles, also known as leitmotifs, music that supports dramatic mood and sound, frequent borrowing of familiar melodies, and unity through leitmotifs and thematic transformations. Classical music creates a whole other language for the purpose of telling a story. Great composers, many who had gotten their starts working on Wagner operas, created a connection between film music and symphonic music. One of the most notable Hollywood Golden Age composers was Max Steiner, who composed the score for Casablanca. As you can hear here, he's using all the traits of the classical Hollywood score. Even today, the musical themes are famous. So, what is the connection between Casablanca and Jaws? In an interview with Star Wars Insider in 1998, John Williams said, "I've been particularly fascinated with the émigrés from Europe in the 1930s, people like Max Steiner and Erich Korngold. The classical Hollywood score had waned during the 60s and 70s due to the dissolve of the studio system. It was sounding jazzier and more modern. Williams, however, was looking to the Hollywood Golden Age for inspiration, which was translated in Jaws. Yes, the story behind Jaws was compelling and full of suspense, but where would that suspense be without the famous two-note motif? The movie could have had a completely different feel if it weren't for the deceptively simple theme, which taps into the history of visual and musical motives at a depth sufficient to connect with viewers who may have been untouched by only what was being displayed on the screen. Remember the traits of the classical Hollywood score? Williams has established a leitmotif and created unity through them. He hits on every element of the classical Hollywood score. The shark's theme, while only two notes, still has the incredible full range of orchestra. The Jaws soundtrack has become even more recognizable than Casablanca's. Jaws succeeded, earning more than $129 million in the box office. During its initial release, 67 million people saw it. That phenomena wasn't simply a fluke. Spielberg and Williams would repeat their success in subsequent films, all of which included the classical Hollywood score. They produced hit after hit. Spielberg's genius, with Williams' scores captured musically the childlike sense of wonder of the characters. As a result of the commercial magnitude of these movies, scholars credit John Williams as being the most prominent force in bringing back the classical Hollywood score. Though critics like Robert Kolker accuse Spielberg of killing good movies, the fact that he helped repopularize classical music in films would argue otherwise. The two men would go on to create 29 films together. Film music scholars like Timothy Schurer and Emily Audicino argue that John Williams revived the classical Hollywood score after the success of, most impactfully, Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Their massive viewership inspired many more filmmakers to not only use the classical Hollywood score, but also to pair themselves with someone who they can create synergy with. Partnerships in film are not new. Sergio Leone and Ennio Morricone had a long-lasting partnership that lasted until Leone's death, and Alfred Hitchcock and Bernard Herrmann made many films together. However, neither pair necessarily stuck to the classical Hollywood score. In fact, the reason Hitchcock and Ehrman's working relationship fell apart was because Ehrman didn't want to switch to the newer, more European style of music like we hear here in this Fellini film, 8½. Going into the 21st century, after watching Spielberg and Williams make hit after hit, others have followed their formula. One pairing is Dario Marianelli and Joe Wright. Marianelli created the soundtrack to Pride and Prejudice, a score that is inspired by Beethoven's early sonatas and the Romantic period's Romantic movement. Similarly, Williams was very much inspired by Debussy. You can hear that here. Wright and Marianelli created 5 films together, all critically acclaimed for both their music and cinematography. While it's certainly no 29 films, they have found the same type of harmony Williams and Spielberg found. Another pair that has gone on to achieve great success is Christopher Nolan and Hans Zimmer. They have created 7 films together. Christopher Nolan has been called the Steven Spielberg of the 21st century. He has a similar box office appeal. Critic Roman Arbisi says, "There is something about walking through those double doors to see a film by Christopher Nolan on the big screen. That feeling is likely reminiscent of those who went out in droves to see the words, a film by Steven Spielberg again and again." An element to Nolan's success is largely in part to Hans Zimmer. On working with Zimmer on Interstellar, Nolan said, "To me, the music has to be a fundamental ingredient, not a condiment to be sprinkled on the finished meal." Like Spielberg, he understands the importance of film music in telling the narrative. Zimmer mirrors Williams in his dedication to the classical Hollywood score, using a wide array of symphonic instruments. He is best known for his use of strings. Zimmer is incredibly critically acclaimed, with 37 awards, including 2 Oscars, 3 Golden Globes, and 4 Grammy Awards. And yet, when he signed on to the project for Superman, Man of Steel, he told CNN, "Oh my God, I'm following in John Williams' footsteps." Despite his success, he still feels the magnitude of Williams' presence in the film industry. He follows Williams' footsteps in many ways, continuing his legacy of spreading the classical Hollywood score through blockbuster movies. For example, Inception earned $839 million in the box office. Overall, Hollywood has gained duos who masterfully blend visual storytelling and music into deep films that still have a blockbuster appeal. By merging Steven Spielberg's adept visual narration with John Williams' emotive musical compositions, the classical Hollywood score underwent a renaissance in subsequent filmmaking, propelled by the widespread audience appeal of Spielberg's films. This resurgence not only left an imprint on other director-composer collaborations, but also influenced the trajectory of cinematic storytelling.
My job in film is to inform and improve in the process of storytelling through music if I can. Describe the characters, describe the atmosphere and the ambiance of what the story requires. And so my job is to be a collaborator with the director in achieving all these things. The atmospherics, the emotional content, and so on.
A quote that beautifully captures the touching relationship of Spielberg and Williams is from this interview celebrating their 50-year-old collaboration.
"Dinosaurs do not walk the earth. We do not wonder. We do not weep. We do not believe. John, you breathe belief into every film we have made. You take our movies, many of them about our most impossible dreams, and through your musical genius, you make them real and everlasting for billions and billions of people."
Thanks for watching.